Monarchy explained. Absolute versus parliamentary monarchy. For thousands of years, one idea has appeared again and again, that the order of an entire society rests in the hands of a single individual, a throne, a crown, a name that stands above all others. Across continents and centuries, kings, queens, emperors, and rulers have shaped the course of history. They commanded armies, created laws, and defined the structure of entire civilizations. And yet, the idea of monarchy is far more complex than it first appears, because not every monarch rules, and not every crown holds power. Between the absolute authority of a ruler like Louis XIV of France and the largely symbolic role of a modern constitutional monarch lies a profound transformation. To understand monarchy is not simply to understand kings. It is to understand how power is imagined, justified, and limited. Chapter 1. What is a monarchy? A monarchy is a form of government in which a single person stands at the head of the state. This person may be called a king, a queen, an emperor, or a czar. The title may vary. The principle does not. Power is centered in one individual. In most cases, this position is held for life, and in most cases, it is inherited. The word itself comes from ancient Greek. It means, quite literally, the rule of one. But this definition only describes the surface. Because monarchy does not tell us how power is exercised, it only tells us where it begins. A monarch may rule directly, or barely rule at all. He may command the state, or represent it. He may shape laws, or simply confirm them. Monarchy, therefore, is not a fixed system. It is a framework, one that has taken very different forms throughout history. Chapter 2. Why did monarchies emerge? Monarchies did not arise by accident. They were, in many early societies, a practical solution. Communities needed leadership. They needed protection. They needed decisions, often made quickly, especially in times of conflict. In a world of tribal rivalries, fragile alliances, and limited communication, concentrating power in a single figure offered clarity. There was no ambiguity about who ruled, no uncertainty about succession. Order could be maintained through a recognizable center. But monarchy was not only practical, it was also deeply symbolic. In many cultures, the ruler was more than a political leader. He was seen as part of a greater order, sometimes chosen by divine will, sometimes believed to embody it. To obey the king was, in many cases, to obey something beyond him. This gave monarchy a unique form of legitimacy, one that went beyond force. It connected power with belief, and belief with stability. Yet even in these early systems, power was rarely absolute from the beginning. Kings negotiated with nobles. They relied on warriors, priests, and advisors. Monarchy was always shaped by relationships, and over time, these relationships would begin to change. Chapter 3. Absolute monarchy. In an absolute monarchy, political power is concentrated to a remarkable degree. The monarch stands at the center of the state. Decisions emerge from that center, and that center is a person. The ruler shapes laws, directs the administration, commands the military, and defines the political course of the realm. This does not mean that the monarch acts entirely alone. No state functions without structures, but in an absolute monarchy, these structures derive their authority from the ruler, not the other way around. One of the most prominent examples is Louis XIV of France. His court at Versailles was not merely a place of residence, it was a stage, a world of gold, mirrors, ceremony, and precision. Every gesture followed rules, every moment carried meaning. Power was not only exercised, it was displayed. The king stood at the center of a carefully constructed universe, one in which hierarchy, loyalty, and authority were constantly reinforced. Why did such a system emerge? In part, it was a response to instability. Periods of civil conflict, religious wars, and fragmented authority had weakened many states. A strong, centralized ruler appeared to offer order. Unity could be enforced, rival factions could be controlled. At the same time, Administrative systems became more sophisticated, taxation improved, standing armies developed, bureaucracies expanded. This allowed monarchs to extend their reach in ways that had not been possible before. Political theory supported this development. Many thinkers argued that only a unified, undivided authority could guarantee peace. Division meant conflict, unity meant stability. And so, absolute monarchy became both a political reality and an intellectual justification. But it came with inherent risks. When power is concentrated, everything depends on the individual who holds it. A capable ruler could strengthen the state. A weak one could destabilize it. Grandeur and fragility existed side by side, and over time, tensions began to grow. Chapter 4. Parliamentary Monarchy. In a parliamentary monarchy, the structure remains, but the meaning changes. A monarch still stands at the head of the state, but political power no longer rests with that individual. Instead, it is distributed among institutions. Parliament creates laws. Government implements them. Authority is defined by a constitution. The monarch remains, but does not rule in the traditional sense. Decisions no longer originate from a single person. They emerge from processes, from debate, from representation, from law. This transformation did not happen suddenly. It was the result of long, historical struggles. Social groups demanded influence. Economic changes shifted power. New ideas challenged old assumptions. The notion that authority should be limited and accountable gained strength. In countries like Great Britain, this shift unfolded over generations. Conflicts between Crown and Parliament reshaped the balance of power. Step by step, authority moved away from the monarch and toward institutions. The result was not the abolition of monarchy, but its transformation. The monarch became a symbol of continuity, a figure above daily politics, not absent, but no longer decisive. This distinction proved crucial, because it allowed tradition and change to coexist. Chapter 5. From power to limitation. The movement from absolute to parliamentary monarchy was not linear. It was shaped by conflict. In some cases, gradual reform, in others, dramatic rupture. In England, tensions escalated to the point where a king was put on trial and executed, a moment that revealed just how far the idea of unquestioned royal authority had eroded. In France, resistance to royal power culminated in revolution. The monarchy did not adapt quickly enough, and the system collapsed. Elsewhere, change came more slowly. Negotiations replaced confrontation. Compromise replaced rupture. But the underlying question remained the same. Who holds power? Is it a person or a system? As societies became more complex, the answer increasingly shifted. Power moved away from individuals and toward institutions. Not all monarchies survived this transformation, but those that adapted endured. Chapter 6. The core difference. At its heart, the difference between absolute and parliamentary monarchy is simple. In an absolute monarchy, political authority ultimately rests with the monarch. In a parliamentary monarchy, it does not. That shift changes everything. In one system, the state is closely tied to a person. In the other, it is anchored in structures. The monarch may remain visible, but power becomes less personal, more distributed, more regulated. Not every crown governs, and not every ruler decides. Chapter 7. Why monarchies still exist. Monarchy is often seen as a remnant of the past, and yet it has not disappeared. Several modern states remain monarchies, some of them among the most stable in the world. Why? Because monarchy has proven adaptable. By giving up political control, it has preserved symbolic relevance. The monarch no longer competes with democratic institutions. Instead, the role complements them. There is also a cultural dimension. Monarchies carry history. Rituals, ceremonies, and traditions create continuity in a changing world. They represent something that is not tied to elections or political cycles, something that endures. At the same time, political power operates elsewhere, in governments, in parliaments, in law. This separation can reduce conflict. It allows the state to have both a symbolic figure and a functional political system. Chapter 8. More than a crown. Monarchy is not simply about kings and queens. It is about how societies understand authority. In absolute monarchy, power is concentrated, visible, personal, centralized. In parliamentary monarchy, power is structured, distributed, regulated, institutional. The crown remains, but its meaning changes. It no longer defines power, it reflects history. Conclusion. Monarchy is one of the oldest forms of political organization. For centuries it shaped empires, defined borders, and structured societies. But it has never been static. From the concentrated authority of absolute rulers to the limited symbolic role of modern monarchs, it has continuously evolved. What remains is not a single system, but a spectrum, between power and representation, between authority and limitation. The crown endures, not always as a source of power, but as a reminder of how power once was and how it changed.